3 lifelong friends, 6 trusty balls, and endless NFL takes. Welcome to 3 Guys, 6 Balls NFL podcast.
Welcome back to 3 Guys, 6 Balls. This is episode 8. The NFL draft is officially over, and so now it's time for us to determine who were the winners and losers of the NFL draft. We're each going to pick one winner and one loser from the NFL draft. Do you guys want to start with the losers or with the winners?
Start with the winners.
Yeah, losers are more fun. Let's finish with them.
Okay, we'll start with the winners. All right, so let's go ahead and start with Avery. Give us your biggest winner from the 2025 NFL draft.
I hate to say it, but it was the Browns. I feel like they are the biggest winner for some reasons that other people might not see. The big thing, of course, was the quarterbacks. You know, they drafted 2 quarterbacks. The second one, Shough. I've seen a few people talking about him, just saying that this is going to be, you got 5 potential QBs in that room. I think it's great. I think it's great for the competition. I think there is no clear-cut starter. I mean, you could say Flacco, but he's getting up there, and I feel like the front office might kind of force their hand and just kind of, stick with the quarterback of the future, as every team does. But I like it. In fact, I've seen a lot of people say that Dillon Gabriel out of Oregon is in a really crappy position. I like where he's at. I think, unlike Browns teams of the past that draft a quarterback, I feel like they end up just kind of getting, pushed aside, or like we kind of forget about them. But I feel like this season, even if they're not on Hard Knocks, I feel like they're going to be under the spotlight. I think that all 5 of these guys are going to be talked about a lot.
Well, not Kenny Pickett. No one's going to talk about him.
No. Yeah, no. Sorry.
4 of the 5, sure.
He's basically already cut. Like, I don't know if anyone's told him, but he should start looking at other teams for when he gets cut. But Joel pointed out, they got 5 of our top 50 players in that draft. The top guys, of course, the guys that I think we all kind of agreed were, whether they're diamonds in the rough or just a little bit underrated. None of these guys were just, not supposed to be drafted at all. But Caleb Schlesinger, if I'm saying that right, and Schlesinger, and then Harold Fannin Jr. I think both of those guys we were very excited about. Schlesinger definitely has the best hair out of UCLA. Of course, just these flowing golden locks in Los Angeles. But I think it's exciting. The amount of talent that they were able to get out of that draft is incredible. I know we were talking earlier about how the Browns could have gotten Hunter and Shedeur, but of course that's a bunch of hindsight. It's like no one thought he would drop that far.
Yeah, nobody could have determined that.
Yeah. But the fact that the Browns got an extra first-round pick next year, I think that's everything they did, I was blown away by. In fact, I like to think that if I was in charge of that, I couldn't have done that good of a job. Honestly, I don't think I could have. So I have to put them as number 1.
Script writers are script writing out here. I actually disagree. I think the Browns had a good draft. I think they made some bad decisions. I think drafting 2 quarterbacks to put 5 quarterbacks in your quarterback room, sorry for saying quarterbacks so many times, is a bad choice. I think they wasted a pick, either 3rd round or 5th round. And granted, you have no idea if either of those guys is even going to be there in the 5th round. And they traded back up into the 5th round to get Shedeur. But it creates an unnecessary sense of unease, which I'm sure both quarterbacks are used to. Well, I'm sure Dillon Gabriel's probably used to it, having to fight for spots his whole career. But it seems like a waste of a pick, one way or another, whether in the 3rd round or the 5th round. You can't start both of these guys. You are just hoping for the best. And when you start your season with 5 quarterbacks, one of them being Deshaun Watson, who is on a fully guaranteed contract. You cannot do anything with this. Now, there may be some exceptions they have with some of his injuries he's had.
Hey, what's going on? I'm here to crash the party, guys. All my fans said, hey, Tim, Avery interrupted your show. You should do the same. So that's what I'm here to do. I'm here to answer their call. Let's go.
You gotta wait, but you gotta give us a winner then. If you're gonna drop in, you gotta give us the winner of the draft.
The winner? Well,
team.
Who was talking before I interrupted?
I mean, I was,
Well,
but I'm used to it.
Will was
Fine.
talking, but we were talking about the Cleveland Browns. It was Avery's pick, the Cleveland Browns.
Oh, the Cleveland Browns? I'm not feeling that.
Hey, same. That's what I was
I'm not
talking
feeling
about.
that at all.
But before you get into your winner, Tim, give us the reason why. Give us the reason why.
Let me just go ahead and go to the AFC North because I got all the divisions, all right, on lockdown. So the reason I'm not feeling the Cleveland Browns, they could have had Travis Hunter, could have paired him up with Shadur Sanders. Boom, dynamic duo from Colorado and Cleveland. They got an extra first-round pick next year. Kudos, but that doesn't help you win this year. So minus Carson Schlesinger, the luscious locks of him. I mean, they did get a running back, but then they doubled down and got another running back. Then they drafted 2 quarterbacks. I mean, so their first round, that was okay. The second was decent. The third round was, or the second pick was decent. The third round, I mean, it was a pretty good pick. Then they went quarterback. I'm like, okay, they're building a team. And then in the 5th round, they decided to double dip and go get Shadur Sanders. You could have had Travis Hunter, could have had Shadur Sanders, and Cleveland would have been that much better, and you would actually put fans in the stands.
Yeah, but Tim, isn't it unfair to say that they could have had them both?
They could have had both.
Because had they well, sure, we know that now, but in the moment, as picks are coming off the board.
Hey, I'm gonna tell you this right now. They had the most draft capital in the 2nd, 3rd, 4th round. They could have used those picks, traded back into the 1st round, made sure that they did have that dynamic duo, and they passed. They passed on it.
I truly think it's going to be better for both of them to not be on the same team in the NFL.
Hey, look at Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow. So it's working out pretty good for them.
Those are a different level of
That
things,
is,
though.
yeah.
Oh, come on now.
That is apples
Those
and
are
oranges.
the best of the best.
What's
right
good
there.
for the goose is good for the gander, right?
And before we go any further, Avery, I set this up with Tim. Just so you know.
Oh,
100%. After you crashed my party, I think it was a couple of days later, he goes, so I think it would be really fun if you just kind of, you don't even have to be here for the whole thing. And I was like, well, I'd like to try to crash it while Avery is, but for some reason I wasn't getting the invite.
You were like a minute too late.
Blame it on the internet. It wasn't giving me the email fast enough.
Just so everybody knows, for everybody who's listening or watching who didn't listen to one of our previous episodes, so Tim was doing a live with another guest that we were not invited to, and Avery, we had been on his show previously, and Avery still had the same link, and Avery hopped on Tim's live during his live episode. So that's why I invited Tim on to crash our party, because Avery crashed his party.
That's right.
It's only fair. It's only fair.
But back to the Cleveland Browns. So I know both Will and Tim said that they didn't like what the Browns have done, and a lot of other people agree with you guys. But I'm going to agree with Avery that the Browns are winners. So, Tim, you missed the part where Avery said that the Browns drafted 5 of our top 50 players from our top 50 big board.
Okay.
So that's one of the reasons why they're winners. So the biggest reason why people think they're not winners, though, is because they didn't address several other needs and instead wasted those picks on drafting 2 quarterbacks and 2 running backs. Now, to counter that, I'm going to start with the running backs. So how many teams in the NFL have started to use multiple running backs?
Okay. Yeah.
A lot. A lot of teams are going to multiple running back offenses. So they drafted Quinshon Judkins, who was ranked 26th on our big board. And then they also drafted Dylan Sampson, who wasn't ranked in our top 50, but this was a stacked running back class. And he was one of 6 running backs in college football last season who was able to rush for 20 or more touchdowns. So you pair those 2 guys together. I think that Quinshon Judkins is going to put a lot of people in the stands for the Browns because he played at Ohio State. So they're already familiar with this guy. So they're going to want to see him play in the NFL. And then you have Dylan Sampson, who is, I mean, he wasn't one of the top running backs, but he's going to be solid. I think between these 2 guys, they're going to create that next backfield where everybody is going to be afraid of them. This is going to be really good for the Cleveland Browns moving forward because they have 2 young running backs who can come in and contribute right away. Then to get to the quarterbacks. So they drafted Dylan Gabriel and Shadur Sanders. Now, they also have Deshaun Watson, they've got Joe Flacco, and they have Kenny Pickett. So the question is, what are you going to do with all those quarterbacks, right? Okay, so Deshaun Watson, I know he's got a fully guaranteed contract, but he shouldn't even be on the roster, in my opinion. They just need to get rid of him.
They can get out of that after this season, I think, and it not cost them so much.
Yeah, so he just needs to go. Deshaun Watson just needs to go. So he shouldn't even count as one of their 5 quarterbacks. Then you've got Joe Flacco. I think Joe Flacco is going to be the number 2 guy just because they want somebody else to win it. And if nobody else wins it, then he's going to be the number 1. Then you have Kenny Pickett, Dylan Gabriel, and Shadur Sanders, who are all going to compete with each other. Now, which position has been the biggest headache for the Cleveland Browns over the last infinite amount of years?
Quarterback.
Quarterback.
Quarterback since 1999. Come on now.
So when was the last time that they had a actual franchise quarterback?
Was we even alive when that happened?
Well, they had one. They had Baker Mayfield, but then they let him go.
Yeah.
But then they let him go. Okay. So it's been a long time since they've had a franchise quarterback who is a legit NFL starter in this league.
Okay.
I don't know if I agree with that. Legitimate starters in this league, the Browns quarterbacks?
Who?
Oh, well, they had Jameis.
I said legitimate starter.
Oh, come on now. Jameis, I mean.
He's a
Don't go legitimate in there.
Hey.
He's a backup. He's a backup.
What about Flacco coming off the couch that year? I mean, come on now. He's still got a little magic, right?
Okay. Let's say
I guess
a guy who can lead a team to a Super Bowl.
Besides Baker Mayfield, I guess the answer is none. They had Deshaun Watson, who could have done it, minus, his life choices, which we don't need to get into. But I guess, thinking about it, this list is not strong.
It's crap.
Yep, it's not great. So, by drafting 2 quarterbacks, what are you doing? You're giving yourself a higher chance of finding your franchise quarterback. Now, I know that it's controversial and they could have had another position where they could have drafted a guy. But if you look at ESPN's needs for every team, every single team was given their top 5 needs by ESPN. Only 5 teams in the entire NFL filled every single one of those 5 needs. So does that mean that only 5 teams won the draft and the other 27 lost? No, it doesn't. And in my opinion, when you're filling a need, when you get past the 4th round, is it really filling a need?
Brady was a 6th-round pick.
It could be. But how often are a 6th round pick the best quarterback in the NFL?
Brock Purdy, 7th round. I guess that's different.
He's an okay starter.
Kurt Warner went undrafted. I'm just saying.
Yeah, those are 3 examples, but how many guys are drafted in those rounds though?
A lot.
We need to look at the percentage, but I bet you the percentage of guys who are actual high level starters is not high.
No, the point you're making is accurate. It's an incredibly low percentage chance that you are getting a quarterback starter late in the draft.
And not even just a quarterback, a starter at any position. How good is that guy that you drafted in the 5th, 6th, 7th round? How good is he going to be over the guy that you had at that position last year? Is he really going to be that much of a difference? It doesn't matter that they didn't fill their needs because 27 other teams didn't fill all their needs anyway. So you go back to these 2 quarterbacks, Dylan Gabriel and Shadur Sanders. I think this is going to be really good for them because this gives the Browns the best chance to find their franchise quarterback. They have a Super Bowl winning quarterback who is also in that quarterback room who they can learn from. They have another guy who wants to prove himself in Kenny Pickett. Between the 4 of them, this is going to make someone better.
Can I stop you right there for a second? I would have no problem with them taking 2 quarterbacks if they were both left-handed or both right-handed. But the fact is you went and got Dylan Gabriel, a left-handed quarterback, and then you double-dipped and got Shadur Sanders, who's a right-handed quarterback. Now, I played a little bit of tight end. I mainly played linebacker, but I played a little tight end, and I'm going to tell you, having a left-handed quarterback, it throws off everything because the spiral, the trajectory, it changes. I know that sounds like very minimum to the listeners, but it could make or break a receiver catching it because if he's used to a right-handed quarterback his whole life and then you start throwing a left-handed quarterback, it changes the way he has to make his cut and his routes. He might have to cut more outside this way, to the left instead of cutting in for a right-handed quarterback. So if it would have been two right-handed quarterbacks, say like Shadur Sanders and Jackson Dart, well, that's a bad example. Shadur Sanders and, I don't know, Will Howard, or, Shadur Sanders and Curtis Rourke from Indiana, I would have no problem with it because, competition elevates greatness. But I don't know how it's going to work when one quarterback's left-handed and one's right-handed.
I see that as a skill issue. If anything, if those receivers can't handle the change in direction on a spiral, I don't think they should be there at all. In fact, if anything, I think it might be better for the receivers. It's like, hey, this is now forcing you to not just operate on muscle memory, and you actually have to think about what's going on. You've got all these different quarterbacks. I mean, I feel like for the receivers, this is just as much of a challenge as it is for them as it is for the quarterbacks. Like, they've now got to, how they respond to the quarterbacks is going to make a difference. If they can excel, their jobs are also on the line too. It's not just like, hey, we'll see which quarterback we get. There's also a battle in the wide receiver room, there always will be every offseason. So I see it as kind of like, because I understand what you're saying. Growing up, we had a guy that we'd play with, Lincoln, threw left-handed, and I remember it being just wild. We're just playing pickup in a basketball court, but wild saying that out loud. We did that all the time.
All the time.
But it was different. But also, we were 12, and not, NFL wide receivers. But I'd honestly be curious to hear from receivers, whether it's college or NFL, like, hey, how much does this actually affect you?
Well, Tim just had to go in there and throw in things I wasn't thinking about. But
hey, that's what I'm here to do.
to go back to this real quick. Okay, between these guys, you got, again, Kenny Pickett, Dylan Gabriel, and Shadur Sanders. They all want to be the starter, right? And then you got Joe Flacco, who also probably wants to be the starter. Between these four guys, someone is going to get better. Someone is going to elevate their game to become the starting quarterback for the Cleveland Browns. And I don't know if it's going to be Shadur. I don't know if it's going to be Dylan Gabriel or somebody else. But one of these quarterbacks is going to elevate their game to become the franchise quarterback for the Cleveland Browns. So I think that them drafting two quarterbacks and two running backs is actually a good thing.
Unless it's Joe Flacco. You can't call Joe Flacco the franchise quarterback of the Cleveland Browns. If Gabriel and Shadur both shit down their leg and can't play football anymore, and then all of a sudden you're left with Joe Flacco, you're right back in the, well, I guess we're signing up for Archie Manning next year. You're right back in.
Which isn't a guarantee, by the way.
It is not a guarantee. Right. None of these guys are guarantees.
That's another reason why people are saying, why did you draft two quarterbacks if you're just going to go draft a quarterback next year? Who says they're drafting a quarterback next year?
Well, they should draft a quarterback every year. And we've talked about this on the show before, about the possibility for talent. Dallas just traded what for Joe Milton? Too much? I think it's Joe Milton. It might not even be his name. You know what I'm talking about?
It is Joe Milton.
Oh, yeah. Crushed it. Got it in one.
It's not Emeka Egbuka, so you got it.
Well, yeah, you're right. I can say this one. Yeah, I don't disagree with them drafting with three quarterbacks on their roster. Obviously, none of them as pure starters anymore. I don't disagree with them drafting a couple quarterbacks, even two quarterbacks. Even though I've already said it was a waste of a pick, you drafted two guys that both are expected to start. Shador's going to walk in and he's going to expect to prove himself and start. Dylan Gabriel is going to walk in, having played 18 years in college, with enough experience for all of us, expecting to walk in and start. And now everyone who goes to the draft, who plays in the NFL, is playing expecting to start. I'm going to be good enough. I'm going to prove myself to be the best. You don't go through the whole process hoping to be third string. That's just not the thing. But I just feel like, given who they drafted, and I have nothing... maybe not nothing. I have almost nothing against Shadur, and I have nothing besides tenure in college against Dylan Gabriel, but I just feel like there's an imbalance there. I feel like they felt like they had to draft Shadur. Okay, it's been too long. Let's trade up and just get him anyway. He was projected first-round talent for this reason, that, or the other, which we will never know unless he proves to be good in the NFL. Let's just go ahead and take this guy anyway.
I agree with Will. I think... In fact, I want to kind of put more on that. I think because I would say Joe Flacco right now is probably, obviously nothing's decided, but would probably be the starter as of right now. But I think if he's the starter past week 3, the quarterbacks in the draft were a fail. I feel like as long as either Gabriel or Sanders is starting the majority of the year, unless that happens, it was a fail. Because I'll be honest, I like Gabriel over Sanders. I honestly think that Gabriel will be that starter unless they do some crazy shakeup later on. But I think it really comes down to those two guys.
Let me ask you this, though. If Jackson Dart's not starting by week 3, is that a fail?
No. The reason is, I guess, mainly because Sanders is supposed to be ready. According to him. And like we said, 18, 19 seasons, in college, like both of these guys should be ready enough. I mean, they don't have steep competition, but I would say like to not have these guys, because the thing is, Browns quarterbacks don't last long. It's not like they're like this. They give them a year, and if it's not working, it's kind of already the beginning of the end. So I would say, with Flacco, he's kind of the safety blanket. That dude's 45 years old, 50, 55. I just think.
He won the Super Bowl in 2011 or 12 or something like that.
Oh my gosh, we're talking about
he wasn't
decade ago. That's
he
like
wasn't
saying,
more than that.
Michael Jordan won 6 championships. Well, he won that decades ago. Come on now. What has Flacco done now?
Led the Browns to the playoffs.
He did, off the couch. But that was still a couple of years ago.
To go back to my point real quick, so if Joe Flacco is a starter, when that depth chart comes out, Shadur Sanders and Dylan Gabriel are elevating their game. The next time the depth chart comes out, if Shadur Sanders is over Dylan Gabriel's elevating his game. And Shadur is elevating his game because he knows that Dylan Gabriel is coming for his spot.
Yeah.
So I think it's a good thing. I think the Browns won this draft because ultimately what the draft is about is getting better. And I think the Cleveland Browns got better.
Well, by those standards, I feel like I could sit here and pick out a handful, like 10 teams that, got better. Kansas City technically got better. Are they winners of the draft? Not necessarily. They didn't have anything splash worthy, but they had some great value picks. Would I have considered them a winner? No. Do I consider them a loser? Absolutely not. So, I could say and list a handful, if not 10 teams that, got better in this draft. The Philadelphia Eagles got better in this draft, and they didn't even need very much.
If anyone didn't get better from the draft, blow my mind. You get 5-6 new players, and you're not any better. It's like,
I can think of a couple of teams that didn't really get better.
All right, well, we'll get to that later.
We have talked about the Browns far too much.
For about half the show. All right, Will, give us your winner.
My winner this year is the New England Patriots. They are building themselves a team. They had 11 draft picks this year. I know, right? They now have guys that play football. Here we go.
Thank you for throwing that in there.
Yeah. They had 11 picks this year, and 6 of their 11 picks were part of the ESPN Top 100 players. Now, take that for what you want. I'm sure back in the day, Jamarcus Russell was way up there on the ESPN Top 100. So that's something I wanted to mention as we go through all this. Winners of the draft, losers of the draft, ESPN Top 100s, player rankings, all of that is absolute trash. It's absolute garbage. None of it matters at all. What does matter is when we get into week 7, week 8, even 2-3 years down the road, that's when you can really grade the draft of how good or bad it really was. But anyway, that being said, the Patriots themselves, they took a page out of the Mike Vrabel playbook. Mike Vrabel, first year in as head coach in New England, back on his old team. People forget Mike Vrabel played with Tom Brady. He was on Tom Brady's team as a Patriot. Multi-time Super Bowl champion. Now he's back.
Did he catch touchdown passes?
He's a linebacker.
Was that him?
Yeah, he's a linebacker. What's the other guy? Dan Campbell, tight end. Dan Campbell's catching touchdown passes. Mike Vrabel, dude's built like a truck. But anyway, in the first 2 days, they drafted 4 different offensive players in 4 different positions, I believe. They're fully committing to Drake May. They're not out here trying to draft around him. Well, if we go this, if we go that. There were probably better picks to take at pick 4, but they went with Will Campbell. And when you hear this, I think you're going to agree. Drake May was pressured on 37.3% of his dropbacks last season. Their O-line had a win percentage of 50.9%. They lost as much as they won, which means that they were getting beat and they were getting to the quarterback, they were getting into the backfield. They were not good. That 50%, if for those that remember in school, that's a solid F. Like, you have to work your way out of being an F. 50 to 59.9 F, and then 60 is when it becomes a D. So we're not even getting C's and degrees out here. We're solidly in the F category.
I'd love to know what the best team's percentage was.
I don't know. That's a good question. Joel, you're the stat guy. You probably have that off the top of your head.
Yeah,
Well,
pull it up. Pull it
I
up,
have a
Jamie.
stat. The Patriots gave up 52 sacks last season, so there's a stat for you.
Patriots did give up 52 sacks, most in the NFL last year. Nope, not most. We cannot forget.
How could you forget about the
How
Bears?
could we forget about the Bears?
The Bears.
Birds.
Will Campbell played 38 games at LSU, right? Yep. Played 38 games at LSU, 38 starts, played 2,553 snaps, only allowed in those 3 years 5 total sacks. In 3 years, 2,500 snaps. Now, not all of them, obviously, not all of them are passing plays, but, you know, that's some pretty good numbers there for him. And that's just their first pick, but your first pick doesn't make your entire draft. They went on the next couple of days to fill out the rest of the offense, and then they had an absolute classic Patriot day 3. They took a kicker. They took one more time for us, Avery. Yeah, Avery, one more time for us.
What is it? Andre Borregales?
man.
That's the one. They took Andre Borregales, crushed it.
Wait, I have a stat. I have a stat for that.
Go
I have
on.
a stat for that. The Patriots were the 8th worst in the NFL at kicking percentage with 78.8% completion.
And so what they do, they drafted not only a kicker, but they also drafted a long snapper. They drafted a long
And
snapper.
we're talking about long
That
snappers?
they did.
Yes, we did.
yeah.
Welcome to the show, Tim. Nobody goes untouched. Wait a minute.
Wait a minute.
This
Nobody
fell
balls go untouched on this show.
all right.
in free agency over the offseason. They filled a bunch of holes on defense, which allowed them to come in and take best available, not necessarily best fit for their team, or hey, we got to fill this spot. They did that with their first pick, but it allowed them to take best available, and it felt like Mike Vrabel's coming in with his new Patriot way. I was here with the Bill Belichick dynasty days. We're going to bring it back. Gerard Mayo did what he could. We'll leave it with that. And he just wasn't the guy for Bob Kraft and the Patriots. So now they're back with Mike Vrabel doing the right thing, doing the things that I'm genuinely really excited for this team this year.
You know, I'm really glad that I let Will take over and give his, because I actually had the Patriots as well as kind of one of my winners of this draft, and I was about to select them. So I was really glad I didn't take that away from Will. I will say, unbiased aside, the Chargers are one of the biggest winners in the draft. They didn't have anything super splash-worthy, but, you know, second best running back in the draft class fell right in their lap at 22. I don't even think Jim Harbaugh was going to draft a running back until in the later rounds, but then Hampton kind of got there and he's like, oh yeah, I think this is the route we have to go. So got the second best running back in the class. You know, Jim Harbaugh likes to run the ball, and he signed Najee Harris in the offseason. Now drafting Amari and Hampton, you kind of got an explosion with Hampton and the bruiser with Najee Harris. But then they doubled down and they got the receiver Trey Harris in the second round, big body. You know, he's not a burner by any means, but he's that big body wide receiver that can learn from Mike Williams, and Lad McConkey and Trey Harris, you know, can be a dynamic duo of receivers for years to come. But they didn't stop there on the offensive side, though. In the 5th round, they traded up to the 165th overall pick and got tight end Rondé Gadsden from Syracuse. Not a big highlight player, but he's a big body tight end who can learn from some veteran tight ends. In the 3rd round, they got a big run stopper, Jerry Caldwell from Oregon. I'm sure I butchered that one.
Not as bad as Will does with the Mecca Egbuka.
So I'm not going to lie. I was going to come. That was actually going to be my opening line. I was just going to come in and be like, hey, Will, who was the wide receiver that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers drafted from Ohio State? I can't think of his name. That was going to be my opening line.
Will's going to be like, I can't do that.
I got no idea.
So anyway, they did a really good job, you know, filling their needs. And they went and got another wide receiver in the 5th round from Auburn, Keandre Lambert-Smith. And many people may not know this. but he is the cousin of one Cam Chancellor. So you know he's got that dog in him. He's got that dog in him.
You'll be out there hitting some people.
Yeah, for sure. They did get an offensive lineman, and then in the sixth and seventh round, they drafted some depth pieces at safety, which I think R.J. Mickens from Clemson, he could come in and, be a nice nickel corner, nickel linebacker, safety. So I really like what the Chargers did. Overall, I think like I said, I think the AFC West is probably the biggest division winner of this entire draft from top to bottom. Even the Raiders. I mean, I have the Raiders probably as one of the big winners too, and they didn't do anything splash-worthy except draft the best running back in the class and then make a few trades. But the Chargers, unbiased aside, even if I wasn't a Chargers fan, I would say that the Chargers won this draft.
We can't move on from the Raiders until Will brings it up.
The biggest splash they made was that haircut Mark Davis is rocking.
Mark Davis haircut. That never gets old.
We had to bring it up somehow.
He is the original founder of short bangs. All these Birkenstock wearing women out here with their short bangs. Mark Davis did it first.
I'm a little sad that Carson went to the Browns in the second round instead of the Raiders, because that would have been fun, like you guys said on an earlier episode.
Yeah, his stylist, right?
For sure. I think the Raiders did a really good job too, though. I think, drafting Ashton Genty was obviously the surefire answer there. But in the second round, they traded back. They was able to get a wide receiver who I have as a sleeper. I had as a sleeper back at the Senior Bowl, Jack Beck from TCU. And then they went out and got a corner, a tall corner, Darian Porter from Iowa State. So, if I didn't say the Chargers, I would say the Raiders would probably have been a second of mine.
Okay. Well, let me ask you this. Since you're a Chargers fan, I want you to give us your honest opinion. What's the order of the division rankings in the AFC West?
Order of the division rankings? Well, until, I grew up watching wrestling and watching the Nature Boy, and to beat the man, you got to beat the man, all right? And so to be the team in the AFC West, you got to beat the team. I still got to go to the Chiefs right now, though it's a lot closer than a lot of people think. I think right now, after the draft, I think the Chargers move slightly into the second spot, but the Broncos are right there behind them. I mean, you could easily just do this, like 1A or 2A, 2B type thing, and then the Raiders. But it's no disrespect to the Raiders. The Raiders could easily come out and be the division winners. They got Pete Carroll, and Tom Brady is part owner, and they drafted a guy that, can't be tackled in Ashton Genty, and that's what he said prior to the draft. You want the best move? Draft the player that nobody can tackle, and that's what the Raiders did. And they got Geno Smith as a veteran quarterback, so they can beast mode 2.0 in Vegas, and they could easily be in that second or first spot. Like, honestly, if it plays out the way that, it should, like on paper, the AFC West will be kind of like what the NFC North was last year, and you just don't know who's going to end up taking the crown.
Well, if it plays out the way it should, if it played out the way it should have last season, the Chiefs should have been like 1-16.
Well, that is true. Not every team can have the refs in their back pocket, though.
That's the truth. All right. Well, I'm going to get into my winner real quick, and then we're gonna get into our losers of the NFL draft. So, for my winner of the NFL draft, I went with the New York Giants. I think after the draft that the Giants had, I actually might be a Giants fan.
Oh.
Like, it was that good. Like, it was that good of a draft.
It was.
Like, and Tim, you're in our social media group on Instagram. I was texting pick after pick when the Giants were picking. I was like, the Giants are crushing it. Next pick, the Giants are crushing it. Next pick, the Giants are crushing it. The Giants crushed this draft. They had an incredible draft.
They did.
So let me break it down for you guys. So with pick 3, their first pick in the draft, they draft Abdul Carter, the best pass rusher in the draft, and we had him ranked as our number 1 overall player in the draft. So they get him. They add him to a team that already ranked top 10 in sacks last season with 45. So you got Kayvon Thibodeau, you've got Dexter Lawrence, you have Brian Burns, and now you add Abdul Carter.
Jeez.
That defense is going to be scary in the pass rush. Scary. So then with their second pick, They move up to pick 25 to get Jackson Dart, who is our number 1 rated quarterback. He was actually our number 7 overall player and our number 1 quarterback. So they trade up to get pick 25. And what did they give up to get him? Not a lot. They traded the 34th pick, the 99th pick, which was a 3rd round pick, and a 2026 3rd round pick. If you think that's a lot, they had a second 3rd round pick this year. So they were able to keep pick 65, which was the first pick in the 3rd round. So really giving up that 3rd round pick didn't matter that much. To get your franchise quarterback, they didn't give up a whole lot. And the best part with Jackson Dart is we already had him ranked as our number 1 quarterback, but now he gets to sit behind Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston for at least one season.
I wouldn't say Jameis Winston. Russell Wilson, yes. Jameis Winston, he's just there to eat dubs.
Well, if he's not sitting behind, he very may well beat out Jameis Winston. But if he's not sitting behind him, he at least has a Super Bowl winning quarterback and a former first overall pick to learn from while he's not playing. How many times have we seen, especially recently, how many times have we seen where a quarterback gets drafted in the first round, they sit behind a veteran guy, and then when they come in, they do really well? I think that's exactly what's going to happen with Jackson Dart. Even though I think he would do well if that wasn't the situation, but I think that's going to make him even better. So then in the 3rd round, with the first pick in the 3rd round, they draft defensive tackle from Toledo, Darius Alexander. Now, he is a very good run defender, and the Giants were not very good at defending the run last season. They gave up 136.2 yards per game, which was the 6th most in the NFL. So they take care of that need right there, and we had him ranked as our 38th overall player. Then in the 4th round, they get Cam Scatterbo. So they add a big physical running back to their backfield. And I said it previously where I thought that he should be in a shared running back system, which is exactly what he's in with Devin Singletary and Tyrone Tracy. So now that adds that element of just physicality to your backfield and to your offense. Then with the 5th round pick, they took Purdue guard Marcus Bowe, who should have been drafted much higher. He should have been drafted in the 3rd round, in my opinion, but he fell to them in the 5th. And they gave up 48 sacks last season, so they needed to do something about their offensive line, specifically at that guard position. Overall, they drafted our number 1 player on our board, our number 1 quarterback, and the number 7 overall player on our board, the number 38 player on our board, and then drafted in the 5th round a top 100 player. I think the New York Giants knocked this draft out of the park. I think they are going to be competitive in the NFC East this season. I'm not going to say they're going to win it because there's a lot of good teams, but I think they will be very competitive, and they're going to give the Eagles and the Commanders a hard time.
You know, if I could add something to that real quick, they did nail it. And honestly, with the GM and a coach that's on the hot seat, kind of like Brian Daboll and the GM, they had to nail this draft because they should have honestly been fired after last season. It was horrendous, but you know, the owner is giving them one more year, and I think with this move and trading back up and getting Jackson Dart and kind of showing that owner like, hey, we have a plan, and now we have some people that we can, you know, work with. Even if they get rid of Kayvon Thibodeau, they can get some draft capital back next year. So I really like what they did, drafting Abdul Carter and then trading back for Jackson Dart instead of Shadur Sanders. And, you know, like you said, he gets to sit behind some veterans. And that Cam Scatterbo pick, oh, wow. When that happened, I was just like, oh, my God. So I like it. I actually have them as big winners. They were probably, honestly, for me, the biggest winner of the draft.
Yep. So just to clarify, Will, I'm not going to be a Giants fan. I just wish the Cowboys would have had that good of a draft because I thought the Giants draft was that good.
Not like Dallas had a bad draft this year.
They didn't have a bad draft. The Giants just crushed it.
Yeah.
You hate the Cowboys now.
The Giants had a sexy draft. It was sexy. It was very sexy.
Yeah.
That's fair.
I will say this real quick. The Cowboys, the only thing that was kind of a head scratcher is the Tyler Booker. I mean, I feel like they kind of reached on him just a hair. But you look at the 2nd, 3rd, and 5th round picks by the Cowboys, and they definitely got some great value there. You know, Donovan Azaruku from Boston College and Siobhan Revel from East Carolina. The fact that that corner fell to the third round. If it wasn't for his ACL injury, he would have easily been a first round, maybe second round pick. So I don't hate what the Cowboys did, but they weren't winners, but they weren't losers either. They're kind of like the Kansas City Chiefs for me. You know, they definitely filled the needs, but nothing was too splashy except for a couple of players falling to them.
And they're going to go to the Super Bowl, right?
Oh, God. It's getting deep in here.
All right, let's get into our losers. I'll go ahead and start with this one. The loser of the draft was Travis Hunter's draft outfit.
Whoa, come on now.
Crocs,
That
right?
was
He's the one wearing Crocs?
Horrendous.
I know, Jincy was wearing Crocs.
That bright pink jacket, I wanted to throw up. Okay, but really my draft, since we're talking about the Dallas Cowboys, my draft loser is not the Cowboys, but Jerry Jones. So, like we talked about, Tim just mentioned it, the Cowboys had a solid draft, but Jerry Jones was a loser of this draft. And the reason why is because before the draft, Jerry comes out and says, and I quote, "We're looking at two things that could happen before or after the draft, two pretty substantive trades. The only trade that the Dallas Cowboys made in this draft was to trade up back into the 5th round to draft a linebacker who is probably going to be a backup. That's not a substantive trade." Okay, now let me read it again. "We're looking at two things that could happen before or after the draft, two pretty substantive trades." Did Jerry Jones ever say that he was going to make a trade during the draft? No,
I mean,
he said
he's probably said it, but not in that quote.
not in that quote. He said before or after. But Cowboys fans took that as you are going to make a trade during the draft. Two trades, actually, during the draft. And here's the reason why Cowboys fans took it that way. You go back to last offseason, where Jerry Jones says that they are all in. Okay, so Cowboys fans get excited because they're going all in. And Cowboys fans, and I'm one of them, so I know how they feel, they thought that going all in meant that they're going to do what the Rams did, and they're going to trade picks for guys like Jalen Ramsey, and they're going to go win a Super Bowl. None of that happened. So then Cowboys fans are pissed specifically because you didn't sign Derrick Henry. So then later down the road, Jerry Jones comes out and addresses those pissed off Cowboys fans. And he says, "I don't know if he'd be having a career year in our situation. We don't run that type of offense at all. Derrick Henry didn't fit." Okay, so then Cowboys fans respond, what team does Derrick Henry not fit with? There is not one single team in the NFL that Derrick Henry would not make a better team.
Not one.
You could put him on the absolute worst team in the NFL, and that team would be better because Derrick Henry is on it. But apparently he didn't fit
make the Browns
with
better.
the Dallas Cowboys. He would. He would make every single team better, but apparently he doesn't fit with the Dallas Cowboys. So then to follow that up, your all-in quote and your quote about Derrick Henry, when the Super Bowl comes around, after you just finished your all-in season with 7 wins, you say, and I quote, at the Super Bowl, "This is a shocker to be here at the Super Bowl and not have the Cowboys here." Who's shocked, Jerry? Who's shocked?
Jerry specifically.
Just you. Just you. Okay, so the reason why that Jerry Jones is a loser is because he keeps telling Dallas Cowboys fans things that don't happen. And even though he didn't actually say that there was going to be a trade during the draft, he said that there was going to be a trade before or after the draft, and Cowboys fans just took it as, this is awesome, we're going to have a trade during the draft. And then the only trade to show for it was a 5th round pick. Now, there's still time for him to correct this because it is after the draft.
It's forever after the draft.
It is forever after the draft. So who knows what that actually means? But in the eyes of Dallas Cowboys fans, they're back to the point where they are pissed off because they waited the entire draft for you to make a substantive trade, 2 actually, and all you did was trade for a 5th round pick.
I mean, did he ever say which draft? Maybe he meant next year.
That's another good point. Who knows?
I know for me, as also a Cowboys fan,
Man, I didn't know there was that many Cowboy fans around.
Yeah, well, sorry.
There's a lot.
Not really.
They're hiding now. dude.
I assumed when Jerry said that, and it made national media because it's Jerry Jones, so of course everything he says is going to make national media. I assumed that it was going to be a trade before or during, like, oh, we're going to make a move and we're going to do something cool in this year's draft. Like, trade out of the first round and get more picks next year because we're going to be just as bad next year. But that's not the case. Here we are. We're turning into definitely anything Jerry says, I'll believe it when I see it. It's not real until it's real. Mm-hmm. Show me the ink, show me the signature, and then I'll actually believe anything that he says anymore. I mean, if Joe Flacco's 500 years old, I can't even imagine how old Jerry Jones is.
Jerry Jones loses once again. After he lost when they said they were all in, he lost after he said that Derrick Henry didn't fit. He lost after he said he was surprised that the Cowboys weren't at the Super Bowl, which is just insane. And he lost after they didn't make 2 substantive trades during the draft because he said a stupid quote that he shouldn't have said. He needs to keep to himself.
I'll double down and say that the Cowboy fans are the biggest losers of the draft.
We don't get to pick our owner, though.
That is true.
Like it's not our fault that the owner has turned in over the last 30 years into a guy just a big old know-nothing. I mean,
wait, can we trade for NFL owners?
No,
you
I
can trade for
so.
coaches.
I know. I wish we could.
I know. Trade coaches.
Cowboys fans would trade Jerry in a heartbeat.
What would you get? Like a box of donuts?
I mean, he's worth a lot of money.
He's worth a lot of money.
I'll take the donuts.
Yeah.
I'll take the donuts. I'll take them.
There are 30 other NFL owners. We don't count the Packers. They're publicly funded. So there are 30 other owners that, you're all like, wait a minute. There are 32 teams. 31 is Jerry. You're missing one. But there are 30 other actual NFL owners. And we just don't hear the same thing from any other group at all. I thought, and this is baseball, but I thought when Magic Johnson started getting into ownership of the Dodgers that we were going to start hearing some of the same kind of no-nonsense or nonsensical kind of garbage. It just doesn't happen. They just sit back and just let the team be the team.
Now, I will say the Chargers until last season was that because Dean Spanos is a very cheap owner and he has been for years. That's why he hired Anthony Lynn and all these crappy quarterbacks. And then he finally realized like, hey, if we want to be good, we have to spend money on a great coach. And that's what he did last year. So up until last season, Dean Spanos was pretty much in the same category as.
But the difference is that Mr. Spanos wasn't coming out and saying, I can't believe the Chargers aren't in the Super Bowl. I can't believe this. I can't believe that. We're going to make some trades.
Jerry's not a good running back for our team.
And so that's the difference. That's what I'm getting at is that these teams can be as bad as they want. And that's the thing. Like the most recent quote I've heard from the Giants owner is that I'm tired of losing. And what they do over the last couple of years, he said that like 2 or 3 years ago, over the last couple of years, they've consistently tried to get better. Jerry Jones says, I'm surprised we're not in the Super Bowl, and then does nothing to make substantial improvements for the team that he owns. Because, like you said, Cowboys fans, they're going to keep showing up, they're going to keep filling the stadium, they're going to keep selling tickets, selling jerseys, and it just doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how bad they are. Browns fans are still Browns fans, Lions fans are still Lions fans,
but happier Lions fans.
They are happier now. But it wasn't that long ago they were going 0-16 and drafting Matthew Stafford with #1 overall.
I remember that.
Yeah, paper bags on their head.
But in all reality, I mean, Travis Hunter's draft outfit, though, like that's the real loser. Just
that was really sharp. Though. I mean, I really liked that.
That was disgusting.
Like,
honestly, I thought it was great. I thought it looked sweet.
It makes me want to go wear a pink suit, you know?
Well, you'd look good in it, but Travis Hunter.
Oh, okay. It's the beard, right?
It is. Yeah. All right, Will, let's get into your loser.
So I've got the New Orleans Saints as a big old loser this year.
Big old loser.
They have quite a contradictory thing with head coach and GM. They've got Mickey Lewis as their GM, been there 22 years. They have a brand new head coach, and let's not forget, Kellen Moore, head coach of the New Orleans Saints. I was looking this up here. Offensive coordinator, Doug Nussmeier. Defensive coordinator, Tim, you'll like this, Brandon Staley. Defensive coordinator of the Saints. Defensive coordinator, good spot for Brandon Staley.
Absolutely. He's a shit
that's
coach,
a good spot
but
for him.
He's a good coordinator.
He can't head coach his way out of a paper bag, but good offensive or good defensive coordinator. With the Saints, I mean, what the shuck happened here? Right? What are we doing? What the shuck happened here? Like I mentioned with the Patriots, 6 of their 11 players were ESPN top 100. The Saints made 9 picks this year. 4 of their 9 were ESPN top 100 players. Kelvin Banks, their number 1 overall spot. Their number 1 pick, pick 9. I mean, good pick overall. Bit of a reach for Kelvin Banks. They just chose not to re-sign their right tackle, and so they filled a need with it. There were probably better options to go with or trade back. Again, I'm not a GM. I'm not a coach. I'm not an owner. Not my decision. But they had higher needs, in my opinion. They just kind of went with the guy because they felt like they should. And then they drafted Tyler Shough in the second round. They picked 40 or something like that. I mean, hindsight will be 20/20, right? That's what they always say. We have no idea how Tyler Shough's going to be. And we've said before, he couldn't start at Oregon. He couldn't even start at Oregon. Now, granted, Justin Herbert was in front of him. That's a pretty big name. Couldn't start at Oregon, went to Texas Tech for 3 years, got injured every single year, didn't play a full season at Texas Tech, transferred one more time to Louisville. Now we're in his 5th or 6th season in college, and he had one good season in college where he was okay. He's 26, right? He'll be 26.
He'll be 26.
26 in September. Everybody keeps talking about that. At pick 40, almost any other quarterback could have been a plug and play in their system. They're semi-expecting Derek Carr to be back, so they're not really expecting Tyler Shough to have to play. Maybe he'll have to play the first couple of games, but not the full season. So if you're not expecting your second-round pick to play much this season, why are we picking such a lofty player who's going to be 26 to start the season? Granted, Joe Flacco's 40. He's actually 40. I looked it up. Joe Flacco's actually 40 years old, and we were talking about him 25, 30 minutes ago as being a starting quarterback in the league this year. So, sure, Shough doesn't have a lot of time to develop. He has to get it right away. But with 6 years in college, seemingly, he should have a lot of that experience under his belt. The rest of their draft was not horrid. I wouldn't necessarily call it good. They did okay. They reached a lot for a lot of players. They did kind of enough. I actually don't know if I would say they got better. I think they stayed the same. I think that after the draft is done, the Saints stayed the same. I don't know if they drafted a single starter. And yeah, I get it. Well, besides Kelvin Banks, they drafted one starter in the entire draft, which overall is not bad with 9 picks. But when you're looking to make your team better, depth makes it better, sure. But at the end of the day, how many of these guys are actually going to be on your team? I will say, linebacker Danny Stutzman, linebacker at Oklahoma, that's a good pick in the 4th round. And then again, Devin Neal, we talked about Devin Neal on this show before, running back out of Kansas. He was Kansas's offense for a long time. He will be running back 2 behind Alvin Kamara. And as mentioned already, Kamara's not an every down back anymore. He doesn't have the longevity. Devin Neal will get significant playing time this year. So I guess they do have a couple guys who are going to be okay. But the whole draft swings on Tyler Shough at pick 40. And having seen Kellen Moore's offenses run for years, it's going to be a long season for Saints fans.
So while you were talking, I pulled up a video of Tyler Shough, and I just want to share my screen with you guys.
Oh, movie.
Dinner and a movie?
Who's having dinner?
Okay, can you guys see this?
Oh, it's good quality. That's for sure.
Yeah, it's super high quality. But just focus on the
Oh my
quarterback.
gosh, I know this play.
This is what the Saints are getting in Tyler Shough. There's actually 2 plays.
Yeah, this is the one I saw. And bloop.
That's a Will Levis play.
This is at the Combine.
Okay. I've seen that second video quite a bit from the Combine. A lot of comments on Instagram. What's wrong with this? What's it? He just barely overthrew him. First off, you are 0 pressure, 0 defenders. There is no reason to overthrow an inside route like that or a cross or whatever you want to call it. There is no reason to.
That's airballing a free throw. I had to get a basketball reference.
I'm not going to
You're
lie.
right. Yeah, I had to get a basketball reference in.
When this pick happened, I was actually in shock. I was like, they passed on Shedeur Sanders, who I thought was going to be a great fit in the Saints. You know, his cocky, his arrogantness would kind of bring a, extra flair in New Orleans that they've needed for a really long time now. And so when they passed on Shedeur, I was like, oh,
what
are you guys doing? Like, because at Colorado, he's used to not really having an offensive line, so he could have made it work in New Orleans. You had the number 1 wide receiver in Chris Olave, who's not a number 1, but it would have been his number 1. He would have elevated Chris Olave's game, I feel like, and then they just took Shough. And I was like, oh, my soon-to-be father-in-law is probably mad right now because he's a Saints fan, and I was like, I was just in shock.
I was in shock.
In Shough, yes.
All of the Saints draft picks, this is one, if I want to end this on a high note here, I will say one thing the Saints do have going for them is every single one of their draft picks was a player from a Power 4 conference. So they saw actual competition their entire college careers. And so it's not like they're getting William and Mary players out here, or they're getting offensive guards from North Dakota State University, which I was terrified Dallas was going to get. Shout out Seahawks. They've spent their college career seeing actual competition at what is technically the highest level in college. How they performed is up for debate, but they at least saw the competition the way it should be. I mean, they got 2 guys out of Texas, 2 guys out of Louisville, a guy out of Virginia, Oklahoma, Kansas, UCLA, and Syracuse. So we're getting all the Power 4, which is weird to say Power 4 nowadays.
R.I.P.
But
Pac-12.
they've got guys who had the opportunity in college to play against some of the best talent. So if there's nothing else, they do have that. And the NFC South is one of the worst divisions in football because those guys are fighting for last place. Really at 4-12 in the first place, they're going to be at 9-8. So if you can just get double-digit wins, you're going to win that division.
Mediocrity will win that division.
Yes, it used to be the NFC East. Now it's the NFC South.
All right, well, thanks for ending that on a high note there. Let's get back to the negative. Let's go back to Avery. Who's your loser?
The Bengals.
Oh, good pick. Good pick.
I wouldn't even say, like, this is one of those where I feel like it could, with time, look better than it does right now. But Shamar Stewart was already probably the guy that we were not excited for. We thought he was a little bit overhyped. I was looking at some of their other guys they've got. Honestly, this is one of those examples where, in my opinion, my professional opinion, that they didn't really get any better anywhere. I don't feel like any of these guys, I mean, Stewart might, come out, but kind of like what Joel was saying earlier, like, if you get a guy in the 4th, 5th round, to help you at, on the line, offensively, defensively, it's like you could probably get a free agent who's just as good as some of these guys. I just don't feel like anything in that draft really boosted their team. It might have given them more redundancy in the depth chart, but no real game changer. I'd love to see Shamar Stewart get more than 4 sacks in, 3-4 years. But for the most part, I feel like all of this is super forgettable. I don't see any real shift in that whole class for the team to get any better.
To add to that real quick, they only had 6 picks in this draft, 3 of them in the top 100. And I don't feel like they hit a home run on any of them. The Shamar Stewart, I feel like they reached. In fact, I gave that a B- grade, almost a C+ grade, because you could have got Mike Green, you could have got somebody else a lot better who would have been a better pass rusher for you guys. The Demetrius Knight, I'm not really sold on him. I feel like, I don't know, maybe he might have been the best linebacker at the time, but if you were going to go that route, I feel like maybe you could have tried to trade up back into the 1st round and grab a different linebacker. But like you said, man, they just didn't do anything that just kind of jumps out at you to get you really excited. And I remember watching the draft, and when they made the pick of Shamar Stewart, just listening to Daniel Jeremiah and all them, they're just like, oh, they were kind of taken back by it as well. So even the professional experts, on the other level, seen it as oh, I don't know if I would have went that route. So
just to put a positive spin on it real quick.
But this is the losers.
I know. I'm sorry.
Trash them more.
But don't worry. I'll put a positive spin, and then I'll get back to the losing. So Danielle Hunter, who plays for the Texans right now, he also had 4.5 sacks in 3 years in college. And then his first season in the NFL, he had 6 sacks. Then he had 12.5, then 7, and then 2 straight seasons of 14.5, then 6, then 10.5, 16.5, and 12 last season. So just because Shamar Stewart didn't have production in college, it doesn't necessarily mean that he won't have production in the NFL. However, and this is getting back to the losing, what are the chances of that happening? Most of the time when you see a guy who is a pass rusher, he's had production in college before he's had production in the NFL. And a lot of the times, the guys who have production in college don't always have success right away in the NFL. It usually takes them a season or two before they start having success. So the chances of Shamar Stewart actually being a good pass rusher are not high. I just wanted to give one example, but that's one example of all of the pass rushers that we've seen.
I'd also like to throw in here, the Bengals may have made 6 different picks in this draft. They only drafted 3 different positions. They drafted 2 guards, a running back, and Shamar Stewart is technically listed as an edge, but everything anybody says on him is he's probably better as a stand-up back, outside backer, rather than an edge. And so they drafted technically an edge and 2 backers, but Shamar Stewart is probably going to switch positions. So over their 6 picks, they only drafted 3 positions, and only one of them an actual need. So real do-nothing draft, really, like Avery said. They didn't really get better.
They really didn't.
Yeah, to me, this feels like a team where the offense is going to have to score 60 points a game again, and Joe Burrow is going to have to put up MVP numbers just for them to even have a chance at the playoffs. So yep. I agree completely. I don't think the Bengals got any better. I think they're in the exact same situation that they were last season. All right, so let's go ahead and end with our guest. Tim, you're actually our first guest on the show, by the way.
Hey, I just want to say I'm honored, but also this is the first show that I was ever a guest on. So, I guess you could say pop the cherry on being a guest, so to speak. And
you'll always remember
hey,
your first.
I will always remember. It was supposed to be our boys,
and it was barely consensual
yeah,
too.
I mean, barely. Like you guys didn't even know about it. So
wait, were we each other's firsts?
I think we were each other's first because you were our first too, Tim.
Wow. All right.
This is so
hey,
special.
So it was supposed to be our boys over at Shough Sports that next Wednesday hosting the roundtable, and then Avery jumped in and kind of interrupted my show last Monday, and then that's when Joel was like, hey, let's return the favor, and I'm not going to tell the other 2, and I was like, hey, I'm on board for this. I don't normally I'm usually like about to be laying down at this time because I got to be up early, but I was not missing an opportunity to get back at my man Avery here.
It's good to have you on.
It's been a blast. Shall I get my loser real quick?
Yeah, go ahead and give us your loser, and then we'll close out the show.
All right, guys. For me, it is the Steelers, and more specifically, the Steelers offense. In the first round, you went Derek Harmon, which, I mean, hey, congratulations. You've been a team known for defense. I mean, stemming back to the 70s, 80s. So, congratulations. You bolstered your defense, but you had a chance at Shadur Sanders. You had a chance at a different quarterback, and you missed out. I mean, at 21 overall, you had a chance at Jackson Dart, for crying out loud. But here's what the Steelers did. They put all their little eggs in the Aaron Rodgers basket, and they're just praying that a 41-year-old will sign with them. It's like, oh, please go to prom with me, and I just don't agree with it. They didn't have a second-round pick in this, and then in their third-round pick, 83rd overall, they take Caleb Johnson from Iowa, which kind of is a B-rated Najee Harris. But I just feel like even in the third round, if you didn't want to go Shadur Sanders in the first round, he's still sitting there in the third round, and you don't take it. Then in the fourth round, you go Jack Sawyer, defensive end, another defensive player on that defensive line that you already wasn't a need. You got TJ Watt, you got the Hightower guy on the other side. So this is just another position that, you're just adding depth to, and you had a quarterback sitting there. And then, you let Shadur Sanders go to a division rival. So now when this guy is like, hey, I'm going to prove that 31 other GMs made a mistake. Well, not 31 because not everybody needed a quarterback. But, the teams like the Giants and the Steelers and all these quarterback needy teams, and Shadur wakes up and he makes you pay twice a season, you're going to be like, man, I really wish I wouldn't have put all my eggs in the Aaron Rodgers basket. I feel bad for DK Metcalf. He went there in hopes that they would draft a quarterback, and you're preying on a 41-year-old for maybe one season. You did go get Will Howard, but come on, you haven't had a franchise quarterback, really, like a great one, since Ben Roethlisberger. So you're just continuing this trend of getting B-, C+ quarterbacks in hopes that they can be good game managers. How many Super Bowl winning quarterbacks are game managers? Not many.
Nick Foles
got lucky on a trick play.
The great Tom Brady.
He wasn't a game manager. I mean, he did.
If you consider him a game manager, he is the greatest game manager of all time.
Tom Brady is the best good enough quarterback to have ever played the game. He never once did more than he had to. That is game manager. He would throw for 100 yards a game or he would throw for 500 yards a game. It did not matter so long as the team was winning. He is game manager.
And that's fine.
Through
but like
through.
the Steelers, kudos to Mike Tomlin for not having a losing season as a head coach. What have you done in the playoffs? You're not getting to the Super Bowl, and that's why we play the game. That's why they play the game, is to get to the Super Bowl. And if you're not stacking up the Super Bowl rings, all that's for naught. And you went out and got Will Howard. I would have taken my chances with Quinn Ewers. You know, and that's not a knock on Will Howard, but Will Howard had all that talent. He had Emeka Egbuka. He had, you know, all that talent sitting around him. Jeremiah Smith, the two running backs.
And what did he do, Tim? Tim, what did he do?
Yeah.
They won the national championship,
Yeah,
Tim.
you're right, but it's a lot easier to do that in college than the NFL.
And then he goes to the Steelers, and what do they have? All the talent. And what's he going to do? Win Rookie of the Year.
Okay.
If they don't get Aaron Rodgers, I was going to save this for next week. But if they don't get Aaron Rodgers, Will Howard wins Rookie of the Year.
No way, man.
Chat, mark that.
No, don't mark that. I don't want Will getting embarrassed later.
All I'm saying is you had a chance to go get a difference maker right now in this draft that would set your franchise light years ahead of your competition inside the division. You know, in a division where you got to play Lamar Jackson, in a division with Joe Burrow. But now you let Shadur Sanders go to the Browns. You let Dylan Gabriel go to the Browns.
And Tim, what'd they do? They drafted defense. To stop Shadur Sanders, to stop Lamar Jackson,
I mean,
to stop
all
whoever
those
else
players
is in the
can't be
division.
on the field at the same time.
That's what I'm saying. You're talking about how they need a quarterback, but then talking about how to play Shadur, and have to play Lamar, and how to play.
Okay, so who's going to throw that ball to DK Metcalf?
Will Howard.
Will Howard doesn't have an arm for that.
Will Howard.
He has a weak arm.
Doesn't matter. DK Metcalf's 800 pounds of pure muscle.
my
He'll run through everybody.
Absolutely not.
I'm more with Tim, and I know Avery's on Tim's side.
Yeah,
as
you're
well.
outnumbered, Will. I'm sorry,
Will Howard
bud.
thing. I think the Steelers are kind of in the same boat as the Bengals. I don't feel like they really got better. I think they improved their defense. They stacked the defense, but they already had a stacked defense. It was already one of the best defenses in the NFL. And the defense can only take you so far if your offense doesn't do anything. So I am more on the side of Tim here and Avery than I would be with Will, but I guess we'll see. Just like the draft rankings, it all comes down to opinion. So we'll see what happens when they actually get on the field and play. But that's all we have time for our show today. Thank you to Tim for being on our show as a surprise guest. Tim, why don't you let everybody know your social medias and everything real quick?
Yeah, so you can find me on Instagram, answer_the_call. That is Coll, COLL. YouTube, Spotify, Facebook, all those. You can do it. Guys, thank you guys for having me. It was such an honor, being a guest. Like, I'm not going to lie, like, as the minutes got closer, I was getting a little nervous and just getting giddy. And that's kind of like why when I first started, like, I was a little rattled. I'm not going to lie. I was a little rattled, and I'm not used to that. But, I got my composure real quick, and I think we had a really great episode. I'm Tim. For you guys, I answered the call.
Thanks for being our first, Tim. We love you.
Thank you.
All right, everybody. Stay tuned for more NFL talk next week. We will be back with another episode. And as always, don't forget to keep your balls played with. We'll see you next time.